Danny O'Neil aced his test. What grade do we give the rest of the Wisconsin Badgers?
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, Wisconsin Badgers fans? Welcome to Locked On Badgers, your team every single day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you for making this your first stop. I absolutely appreciate every single one of you. My name is Ryan Hairngs. I am your host. Today's episode, we are grading the Wisconsin Badgers position by position, coming off that week 2 up and down on even performance that they end up winning by 32. Let's start with quarterback, Danny O'Neil. Hunter Simmons got a couple reps as well, but this is the Danny O'Neil show. I almost gave him an A+, but an A+ is like perfect. There was a bit of an overthrow to Trechkeka, and perfect doesn't mean you hit every throw. That's unrealistic. There was a bit of an overthrow to Trechkeka in the end zone that would have given him another one. There was that misfired to Lance Mason on 3rd and goal. They ended up scoring anyway, but there were a couple layups I thought he could have had. But 23 of 27 with 283, 3 touchdowns and 1 pick. And that 1 pick was off the deflected hands of Dylan Jones. Maybe you don't throw that pass. Maybe that's not the smartest throw anyway, but Dylan Jones got his hands on it. I think he's got to at least catch it, handle it, go down. I don't really hate that pick. I don't put it on Danny O'Neil is my point. And Danny O'Neil's first start, he's dealing with really poor snaps throughout the game. He's handling the ball in different release points. It's an A. Danny O'Neil, A. And again, I almost went A+. What more could you possibly have expected from Danny O'Neil than 23 of 27 with 3 touchdowns? A. Star of the student, star of the class, gold star, A. Running backs, C-. Dylan Jones, 3.6 yards per carry. Darian Dupree, 4.2 yards per carry. Cade Yakimelli, 3.8 yards per carry. Jackson Aker picked up an important third down the stretch on 3rd and 1 with a kind of a fullback dive type play, but he also missed a key block on a goal line run out of the I formation from Dylan Jones that kind of helped get that play blown up. Dylan Jones also had that reception not reception. He had that kind of middle running back screen thrown to him that he got his hands on. If you catch it, if you touch it, you got to catch it. So C-. It's not, the running game is not all on them. There were not a lot of holes. The interior run blocking wasn't very good. This Wisconsin offensive line, we're going to grade every spot. They're coming up. Not enough push in the run game. But I think when I am able to go back and really rewatch everything, there's probably a few more holes there. Both Justin and Rajiv talked about a hole that Dylan Jones missed. And I also didn't see a lot of broken tackles. There was an opportunity for Cade Yakimelli, for example. I thought to break a tackle and gain a few more yards. There was an opportunity, I thought, on one of the Darian Dupree runs. He kind of turned his back a little too early, unless that was Dylan Jones. It almost felt like he gave up on the play a little bit. So I'm not going to put 100% of the issues on the running game on the offensive line. The running backs also occasionally have to bounce one. They have to make a couple people miss. And again, if you get the ball in your hands, you got to catch it. I love Dylan Jones. I love this program. I love Dylan Jones, but I'm also going to call it like I see it. I'm going to be honest. And I think it's a C- running backs. Receivers, tight ends, A. And it's funny, when I first wrote this down, so I was going through, when I do my grades, I go through each position and I write down a quick, like, what's my snap judgment? Receiver, what's my grade? And then I go back through and I look at the stats and I think about it. My snap grade on receivers was like a B+. And then I went back through, apologize for that, it's receivers, tight ends, by the way. I went back through, I'm like, man, Lance Mason, 7 for 102. Ballard got loose for a deep one. Trech had 4 receptions for 28, but also broke a 61-yarder. Joseph Griffin had a key 3rd down reception. Man, this group was pretty good, right? And no real drops. I thought they were open pretty consistently. They ran hard after the catch. Chris Brooks had a nice catch. Chris Brooks missed a block on a receiver screen, and he has to be better there. But they also had nice downfield blocking on the jet sweeps and the reverses, and Vinny Anthony took one of those. So I actually really think it's an A. I thought the receivers and tight ends were excellent today. When I went back and I looked at it, You look at the production. This is the Lance Mason breakout game we had talked about. This is what we saw when I was watching practice in Platteville, and I talked about it. They want to use him in a variety of ways: up the seam, in motion, down the sideline, crossing patterns. He's a really versatile weapon. Lance Mason is soft hands, but you can see some of the pop after the catch. He gets north and south pretty quick. Vinny Anthony had a good game. I think we all know who kind of Vinny Anthony is, and that's probably an NFL receiver. It was nice to see Ballard get deep. That might be the route tree kind of for him, is a little more limited, but he has the speed to really, really take advantage of a mistake. And we saw that. So I think it's an A. Let's finish off on the offense here. Offensive line. Well, listen, if this was a first half grade, it would have been like an F. But they were much better in the second half. You can't have an F offensive line if you score 42 points. You know, you saw some really nice action in space from Emerson Mandel on that first reverse, I think it was, where he was able to sell the action, release, get into space, and make enough of a contact with that defender in space to spring the stretch run. You saw a little bit more of that inside running power action open up in the second half. Dupree got a burst in one. Dylan Jones had a nice one. They were able to punch it into the end zone. After Lance Mason was out the one, that very next possession, they were able to punch it in. So you did see the offensive line start to come alive, and I thought pass blocking was pretty good. Pass blocking was pretty darn good. So I thought the offensive line got better as the game went on. Pass blocking was pretty good. Caveat, there's a lot of new pieces in new places, but I'm not grading on a curve. I'm not going to grade on a curve and say, well, I'm going to be easier on them because they're shuffling. That's not how it works in college football. You don't get a curve. You know, this is D1 big boy football. How did you play? And it wasn't good enough. And I said some of the good stuff. Defense, it got better as it went on. Pass blocking was pretty good, but the early run blocking was really rough. It was bad. Our running backs were getting popped in the backfield. And you add in the snapping issues, continual snapping issues. Karaganonko's that's not really a spot. It's Renfro's spot. With Renfro out, that was an issue all game. So I don't like giving out bad grades. I got to be honest, though. I think it's a D+. All right, we're going to take a second for our friends of the show. We're going to come back. We're going to do the defensive grades. Plus, what would you give coaching today? I think that's a fascinating one. That's coming up next. Locked On Badgers. First, a quick second for our friends of the show over at Mazda. You can just move through life, or you can find the things that move you. It's your choice. You can choose to get out there, choose your people. And if you're like me, I choose all you people. You're the people I choose. You can go for it, like really go for it in life. Just choose to do something that moves you. Mazda crafts cars for those who choose to do more than simply move. Mazda, move and be moved. Today's episode also brought to you by the incredible people over at DoorDash. And I've already talked about my affinity for food and my inability to cook. If you're a longtime listener to the show, new ones don't get this reference because I haven't talked about it in a while, but longtime listeners understand the sugar burger reference. So DoorDash is here for me to help get food that I need. And let's look back at the MVP of the game. I talked about Danny O'Neal already. He was incredible. But let's talk about Lance Mason. 7 for 102, powered by DoorDash. Just, again, like every Saturday, DoorDash is here to help you save more every time you order. Just like Lance Mason delivers, DoorDash also delivers for you. And if you've been watching this week, if you've been listening to us in practice, this is not going to be new for Lance Mason. I think it's going to continue happening, and he's going to start building a streak, just like the streak you can build on DoorDash. The more you do it, the more you're able to save. Right now on Saturdays with DoorDash streaks, you can save on every Saturday you order. Stack it up all season, you can save $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms to apply. Promo period through 11/18. All right, let's get back into this defense. Let's go defensive line. I'm going to say B. I think it was solid. I think the defensive line was solid. It didn't look as disruptive. It didn't look quite as stout as it did against Miami of Ohio. I think Middle Tennessee did a few different things than Miami of Ohio did to you. The quarterback was a little more capable than Daquan Finn. He's a better passer, and he hurt the Badgers a little bit there, which I think caused the defense line to back off a little bit. But there were moments coming out of the second half. Our Middle Tennessee goes on that 7-minute drive, and they're gashing the Badgers a little bit. 5-6 yard runs up the middle. It felt like we were a little soft at times, and the defense line wasn't quite as disruptive. But then you look at the yards per carry, you look at what they did overall, and the running game really wasn't that effective. And the defensive line got that key stop on third down, on fourth down. Well, I mean, they got to stop on third down to set up the fourth down stop. Alleigro made the hit there, but the defense line helped kind of keep that clean. So they got better as the game went on. They were fine. I thought Mason Reiger was really good. I'm kind of lumping him into this grade for this purpose. Disruptive, hit the quarterback a couple times. He's hard to block. So they were fine. Not quite as good as week one, but a B. Linebackers, B plus. Alleigro is just a unique type of player. He's a player with the physicality to come down in the A gap, to play between the guards, to take on a blocker, to shed that blocker, to pop a ball carrier in the hole. He's that type of physical run defender, but then he can also go sideline to sideline. He can string an option play out and meet the running back at the edge. He can drop in pass coverage. He's a unique jack of all trades for this defense that needs that in the middle. He's a really good player. And that fourth down stop he made today, when Middle Tennessee really felt like they had the momentum, they thought they had the first down. They went to review, correct call. It wasn't a first down. And then Christian Alleigro scrapes across the defensive line, meets the running back in the hole, pops him. That's one of the plays of the game. That's one of the defining moments of this game. That's really kind of where that momentum turned. The Badgers take that, turn around, go down and score, and they really don't give that momentum up. What happens? Listen, I don't think Middle Tennessee wins, but if they go down there and they put points on the board there, it could be into the third, fourth quarter. It could get a little uglier. So, yeah, I'm going to go linebackers B+. Tackett Curtis also had a sack chasing down Vadiato from behind. It kind of opened up for him, but you got to give him credit for going in there and making that play. And it was cool to see Cooper Catalano, Mason Posa get in there. Posa got into the stat sheet as well. So you saw the young players. Thomas Heiberger was in there. B+ for linebackers. DBs. And I lumped them all in for the purpose of this because I don't think it was a safety-heavy game anyway. But I'm going to say C+ for the DBs. Let's start with the good. I thought there was really strong tackling from the DBs. Emilio Agard on a couple times. De'Oni Hill had a nice tackle. Rico Hallman had a nice tackle. So I think the tackling was strong. Austin Brown came up and laid a hit on a Middle Tennessee running back. Preston Zachman, again, sound tackling. So the tackling was good. And that's been an issue for the Badgers the last couple of years. So I'm not going to gloss over that. That's a big deal. They did a really good job of tackling in space. And then the Agard interception was awesome. Drove on the ball, read the play, great hands, out physical the receiver. That was a big turnover in a moment when, again, in that first half of that game, the Badgers needed some of those moments, some of those defining plays. So that's the good. The bad is they got picked on a little bit. And Vadiato, the Middle Tennessee quarterback, he's played a lot of ball. This is, I think, his fifth or sixth year. He's thrown for 3,000 yards the last 2 years. And he had some real, I don't want to gloss over this, and this is not me explaining away some things. There was nice ball placement on some of those throws from Vadiato down the sidelines. He really put it in there for his receivers. But it didn't feel like our DBs, our corners, De'Oni Hill, Ricardo Hallman, Gamera Latimer, it didn't feel like they were as physical as they needed to be at the catch point. I thought the coverage was kind of sticky for the most part on those kind of 9 routes, those vertical routes along the sideline, where it were kind of 50-50 balls. But on each one of those occasions, it felt like their receiver made the play on the ball while our DBs were reactive. They didn't fight for it. They weren't in a spot where they could contest that catch as well as they need to be. It was weird. And I'm not a guy who always says turn and find the ball. I don't think that's as easy as people want to say it is. Sometimes if you turn and try to find the ball, you're going to lose your receiver. But when they go up for the catch point, you got to get more physical. You got to break it up. You got to compete a little bit more. And I thought they kind of picked on our corners a little bit there. So I'm going to go C+. Again, nice hit from Austin Brown come up as well. But DBs, I'm going to go C+ there. Coaching. I went back and forth on this one a lot. And I'm super curious when you guys get in the chat what you would put for coaching grades. I went C+. Again, the first half is probably a D-. You're still winning, but this is not a good Division I team. Again, we all talked about what happened to them in week 1, and you came out listless. I thought the game plan on both sides felt a little listless, almost like you read the press clippings of what Middle Tennessee State did week 1, and you didn't really figure you had to put a lot into it. It was a really bad first half. It wasn't very good at all. I thought there was some odd coaching decisions. I thought the play calling lacked some rhythm. The players didn't seem fired up. It felt like a sleepy start, which it shouldn't at 3 o'clock. It shouldn't at any point in time early in the season. These games freaking matter, but at least, especially for a 3 o'clock kick, a later kickoff, the, there's just no excuse for that. But then you got to give them a hell of a lot of credit for the way they come out of the second half. You got to give them a hell of a lot of credit for, I mean, it was 14-10 at halftime, and the game ends up 42-10. That's a dominant second half, and they made adjustments, right? They obviously lit into the players. The defense got more stout. They hit some stuff on the edges offensively, which really opened up other parts of this offense. So I think a C plus is fair. Ultimately, if it was 20-7 in the first half, and then the second half they outscore them 20-3, and it finishes 42-10, do you feel better about it? If it's two B halves instead of a kind of a D half and an A half, or an F half and an A half, do you feel better if it's like a B minus half and a B plus half? Maybe. I don't know. Probably, right? Because you have to be a little more consistent throughout the course of 60 minutes. That's something Coach Fickle talked about. You can't start slow, because if you start that way against other teams, they might bury you. Now, the argument is you're not going to start that way against other teams because you're not going to overlook them the way you did Middle Tennessee State. And that's the only thing I can come up with for the reason the Badgers didn't start a little quicker, is they overlooked them. They weren't quite as locked in as they needed to be. But they fixed it. And you got to give them credit for doing that. So I'm going to say C plus. Curious what all of y'all's grades are. Each position, coaching, throw it in the comments. We'll obviously talk about it. On Wisconsin, as always, a bunch of content coming up. Really do appreciate every single one of you. I also want you to go check out our Locked On College Football's college football preview show. It's the ultimate college football weekly preview. Drake Toll of Locked On Big 12 and two-time AP Coach of the Year Gary Patterson, plus former college star Jesse Hawley and Locked On's local experts. It's a college football preview that only Locked On can do. Catch college football kickoff every Thursday throughout the season, only on Fire TV. Appreciate y'all so much on Wisconsin, and we will definitely talk later.